You got a whole studio. Look at you.
Yeah, studio slash closet. Uh,
I don't know. I think I'm going to challenge you for the closet. Hold on a sec. I'm more narrow than you.
yeah. No, it's a bona fide walk-in closet for sure, but still.
Let me turn this other light up a little bit. Hold on.
Mine was literally the craft closet until I moved in.
Yeah, the she shed. You displaced the she shed.
Well, yeah, I displaced it to the she barn. She went from like 80 square feet that I have now to like 3,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta have what you gotta have.
Fair trade.
That's right.
Yeah. Is that complaining or?
No,
It better not
it's
be.
just a statement of facts.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's just how it is. There's
Yeah.
no complaining.
That's right.
There's no complaining in family life.
Yeah.
Lies.
Here's the deal, and you will like it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Well, hey, Joe, thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
Agreeing to have the conversation. So basically, we're here just to talk about you and your grittiness, and that's the story we want to tell. We want to put it out there so that others can be inspired by it. So with that being said, Matt and I know that you embody those characteristics that we care about here at Grit Growth Podcast. But for the audience, can you just give us a brief, history and background on who you are, what you do, and kind of where you started and how you got here?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Joe Walker. I'm an architect here in Gainesville, Florida. And like many, I moved here to go to school and stayed. In my education at UF, I became interested in acoustics actually up front, and had done a lot of my graduate work in acoustics. And one of the premier acousticians in the country actually is Gary Seabine and his company that he was here. So he was my graduate advisor, and then I went to work for him for a while. And when I was working for him, I was like, gosh, I just spent 6 years going through school, and I love acoustics, but I really want to get my architecture license, so I can kind of finish the process, because I'm motivated by actually bringing things all the way to done. So that's like a big part of my MO. And so I talked with him about it, and he was really supportive, and actually helped me look for some good opportunities up and down the East Coast. And I interviewed everywhere and ended up at another local firm here, Ponnaquart and Associates, and started my career. That's actually where I met Matt, of course. And while he was starting his career at CPPI, well, I guess that was PPI at the time, or
CPC, PPI, pick a card, any card at that point in time. I think I had 3 cards I was walking around with.
I believe that's true. Yeah. And Carson, that's where I met you too, is when I was, at Jack's office, and kind of grew up in that firm and helped them grow a lot. And really got to a point where I felt really comfortable with what I was doing. And I'm very results oriented and staying focused on solving problems. And so that's kind of the methodology that I took into my work, and working with folks like you guys, always looking for something that's in the way, and let's get it out of the way. Right. So that carried on until ultimately, almost 13 years ago, decided to go ahead and open up my own shop here. So that's when Walker Architects was born, and started out as just me. And Matt, I think you were one of the first calls I got, right after I talked to Frank Moses, and he was like, hey, you know what? You want job number 1? And off we go, right? And then the next day was job number 2, and then it just kept growing. Kept adding talent to what we're doing here, and have really just carried that same attitude towards problem solving, and really focused on the end result, and doing the best we can to get things out of the way to get a good result for our clients, for all of our build partners, and ultimately our user groups in the spaces that we create. So that's been the foundation of the culture of what we built in this office, and it's been growing and with grit for the last 13 years. So it's been kind of an exciting ride. Now we're up to 21 employees. We just officially opened our second office in Atlanta, so that's pretty cool.
Congrats.
So we're kind of spreading out a little bit, and getting access to some really fantastic talent up there is kind of the main motivation of folks that don't want to live in Gainesville after they've gone to school and go on to the next stage of their life, and starting families and looking at what bigger cities have to offer. And so we have to be where the talent is. So that's where we're going.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
I remember that phone call with you, and I think I was proposing meeting with a client, and you're like, well, I still have this job with, that you're currently at, and I totally respect your commitment to where you're at. I'm like, Joe, do you want your first job, or are you going to keep working for the man? You're like, okay, right. I can make some arrangements.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Thanks, man.
That's awesome, man. It's been great to see your progress, but did it all come easy?
Yes, it was a piece of cake. Everything went exactly to plan. Nothing ever got derailed. No obstacles. Of course it wasn't easy. I mean, it was stressful. Like many folks opening their business, I didn't pay myself for the first, I think almost 2 years. So I had enough in savings where, I was like, okay, I can float this for a bit and I'm good to go, and start working and start doing stuff. And all right, now I'm getting paid for a project, but I need more stuff for the office. So immediately flip that and kind of getting resources and tools. And I'm a big believer, Matt, that I'm software, like I like to be on the front edge of that, not the bleeding edge, but just behind that a little bit. And so really making those investments for long-term payoffs. I'm definitely a mindset of us as a collective tomorrow versus me today. So I was willing to make those sacrifices early on to build a solid foundation for the rest of the company. And of course, you get to a certain point in starting your own business and you're like, oh, wait a minute, all the money's going out, and you got to kind of reset your mind and say, okay, well, if I don't get paid and I don't support myself, this isn't sustainable. So kind of made that big shift, and then the pieces just started coming together. And we've been really fortunate with the clients that we have, and kind of building on those relationships. And some of those projects go really, really well, and some of them are tough, right? And every time you run into one of those tough situations with a project or personnel or a client relationship that isn't going as expected, you just got to make some adjustments and learn what you can from that experience, and apply it to the next time, and get better and better and better. So that's something that we talk about all the time in our office, and it's really made us stronger, right? And you can never predict what everything that is going to go to plan or not. So it's always it's a constant learning curve, but you get a little better at it each time. So yes, there have been plenty of obstacles, Matt.
Well, I want you to kind of, for the people out there listening, there's 2 years you didn't get paid, and you said you had savings, but
yeah,
there had to been times during that 2 years where you go, what the heck did I just do? Am I going to make it?
Yeah.
When's the sun going to come up? Or when can I pay myself? I mean, talk us through that, because that's part of that entrepreneurship, that grit, the resilience, you had a passion for, talk us through that.
Sure. Yeah. Like starting a company, there was immense fear, right. I was never one that had that dream per se. Like when I was starting out in my career, I love working with a group of people. So I never said, okay, I'm the guy and I'm going to go out there and do this, and you can follow me if you want. And so that mindset was there for a long time. And then, as things changed in the other company, and the economy was tanking, it was, 2009 is when
Great time to go.
yeah. All of this was like unfolding all at the same time, and people were getting scared, money was getting tight, projects were going on hold, and I was like, oh, I know, I'll go start a business. And so when I started it, it was very much of a mindset of, you know what, I will do anything that anybody needed. So if you need a door moved, I'll go draw it so you can move the door. If you need something more complicated, I'm happy to provide those services as well. Like my personal portfolio and work at the other firm was pretty extensive, and large complicated projects. And it was actually Howie Ferguson when he was working at UF, and a couple of the bigger ones were coming up, and he's like, man, why aren't you going after these? It's like your portfolio, it can hold up to anybody. And then that was like the first mindset shift from just doing little things and helping out people and kind of supporting myself, to, oh, wait a minute, we can actually do what I was doing before and then do it better and do it stronger. And that required more people. And then, so going back to your question about, okay, it got stressful not paying myself. It was truly a mindset change, from, okay, I'm just me, to, okay, now it's more than me. I got to pay these other folks. Oh, I have all this experience. Let's just go ahead and leverage it. And then it just started to kind of come together. Right. And sure, it was scary. And there were times making payroll was stressful. Like, am I going to get paid for this next job? And when am I going to get paid? In the cycle, especially of design services, it's you do the work and you don't get paid for a very long time. But you got to get the next job and you got to keep it going. So you just have to have faith, right? So that was a big part of something I've always been, I guess, blessed with, that everything works out in the end. Like that's always spinning in the back of my head, right? Like it may not go as I expected. It may not be the situation that was as rewarding as what I thought it might be. Or it might be more rewarding than what I thought it might be. But it's going to work out one way or the other. And there's going to be some value in those experiences and those processes that's going to serve me in the long run. So I never lost sight of that. So I never really got terrified. I just got nervous, like, I really need to get a paycheck here. And then, shifting it to where, okay, now I have a paycheck and I need to make sure everybody else in the office always has a paycheck, because that was like one of my fundamental approaches to the whole business is I would never not pay somebody.
Yeah.
And I've never done that. And the
Absolutely.
company has been served well by that because people can rely on it.
Yeah, I think that's a common thread with successful business owners when they start out. And my partner Al Green Construction, he has the same philosophy when he started out. I definitely think that's the right way to go. But basically, so you maintain that mindset of delayed gratification through the ups and downs. Would you say that that's always been your mindset, even when you worked elsewhere?
It has, yeah. I've always positioned everything on it's going to come around eventually. So even in the toughest of times, and personal relationships and office politics and everything that was just really uncomfortable at times, I knew it would just be a moment in time, and there's always tomorrow, next week. And then I just kind of judge all my actions like, is whatever I'm encountering right now, is that going to matter in like 5 minutes? Is it going to matter in 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, right? And then you just kind of judge your reaction to whatever that situation is based on the
Right.
severity and how
And
lasting it is.
and 99.9% of it didn't matter, right?
No. Yeah.
Probably past the 5 minute mark, right?
The super nervous phase.
Well, yeah. Probably more than 5 minutes, but
Yeah, but maybe not 5 months, a lot of it.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
probably go to like, the 5 day, 5 week kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some things are immediate and feel like they're really impactful, but it's just stuff. And stuff comes and stuff goes, and you
Right.
just kind of you figure it out, right? And there's nothing that's so important except for your life or the lives of the people around you. That's it, right? So anything else, if you judge it in comparison to that, it's like, we can deal with it, and let's just figure it out.
Right.
So
Yeah. And so now looking back, no regrets, right? Would you do anything different?
There's always things I would do different, but I've had zero regrets. From the time it took me like a year of that thought process of, maybe I need to leave. Maybe I need to go do something else, to when it actually happened. And
Yeah.
literally 5 minutes after I had that conversation that I was leaving until today, I've never regretted it once.
Awesome.
Not even for like a nanosecond.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that moment, or I guess, that year-long moment. And because you said you didn't have the aspiration of necessarily being an entrepreneur leading up until that. So was there a defining situation, or like what flipped that switch for you other than the economy? I mean, was it all about the economy?
No, it was the economy was kind of a tertiary thing that was just happening in the background. It was really, um, you work with a company for so long, and then you start to realize as you kind of grow up and you know yourself a little bit better that, oh, wait a minute, we are not in alignment with where we want this to go.
Mhm.
And that took me a while, right? And I didn't come to that realization just sitting in a room by myself. I actually had I went out and sought a professional coach, who sat with me and was like, hey, just back up from the situation for a minute. It's like, you have all these skills, you have all these great relationships, and everything that you've gone after pretty much it's worked out. So that's not coincidental, and that's not accidental.
Mhm.
That's planning and preparation, and you may not label it that right now, but it has a direct result in where you're going. So take that, back up from the situation that you're in, and say, okay, what's the right thing for the next 20 years? Because do you want to be sitting around here doing this for 20 more years? And the answer was no, and I didn't. And as far as that entrepreneurial spirit, I didn't think that was in me, quite frankly. And it turns out that it actually kind of is. And
It was just dormant, apparently.
it was unnamed. And I think that was the big realization of, I mean, you guys have worked with me, I'm not shy about sharing my opinion or like what I think is the right thing to do, but to actually apply that to yourself and kind of go build something, I never really put it in those terms until like it was several years into having this Walker Architects entity start that I even started to have a mindset of, oh, this is kind of a thing. And you can kind of put a lot of energy into it. It's not just about doing the next job, but actually plan it out and turn it into a business that can grow and ultimately get to where we are. And we have kind of this internal slogan and rallying cry that we want to be a perpetual firm where design builds people, right? And what that means is it's beyond me. I can put a lot of work into building it, but it's setting it up for the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And we're putting a lot of effort into building our people as people, because when their needs are taken care of, they're going to do a much better job for our clients and the kind of work that we do. So that mind shift kind of tapped into that entrepreneurial spirit and saying, oh, okay, we can create something that can be much bigger than ourselves and go from there. So that's when I brought on partners, and that's when I started just changing the mindset altogether.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to ask you about that tagline. That's what I tagline the podcast based on. I know that's your slogan and your culture, and you guys believe in it. So glad you brought that up. Design builds people. So that's kind of it sounds like your internal culture, mostly is driven by that, right? And then your external client experience, it sounds like, is more centered around problem solving. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've gone through, like, I think 4 iterations of the company of, how to make us better, stronger, and really want to be the partner of choice, right? So honing how we communicate that internally and how we communicate that externally has been a big part of that.
Yeah.
And on the 4th version right now, we're keeping that design builds people as the internal rally, right? Because what it really means to somebody on the outside, they're like, what is that? How does that even apply to me? Like, how do I shop for that?
Mhm.
So what it really means is what I said a minute ago. We focus on how folks actually use our spaces, right? And what is it that they do? So the problem that we're trying to solve is to engross our minds in the business of whoever our client is and try to understand what is in the way of them doing their business better. So it's less about just creating a beautiful work of art, which is a big part of what we do, right?
Mhm.
And it's more about how can I manipulate a space that allows researchers, students, businesses, corporate headquarters, manufacturing, any of those things, healthcare, any of those project types to do what they do better. And you have to kind of just totally dive into what that client lives and breathes and understand what's in the way of them doing better and building their own culture, right? And space can really contribute to that. So it kind of loops on both ends with a different filter, right? We're focusing on the needs of our people so we can focus on the needs of our clients, which leads to really great results. So it kind of is an interesting flip-flop. So, but the design builds people is our definite internal tagline, and it's part of what we use to recruit.
Yeah.
Like everybody that we talk to that's we want to work with us, I always open up with, if you come work for us, you may not be here forever, but you're going to leave better than when you arrived, without question. And we're going to be better for having you here, or we wouldn't be talking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. It's a circular relationship where improving people improves the output, which generates more revenue for more people, which generates a better output, and it's connected.
Yeah. You just focus on people's fundamental needs. It's really shockingly simple.
Food, water, shelter.
You listen and you do.
So you go from yourself, to a couple employees trying to make payroll, like, and you said it was a few years in when you made that mind shift switch. But if you've got that single person entrepreneur out there right now, taking that faith leap, you talked about faith to hire someone, what do you tell them? When's the right point to hire? When that's.
Yeah, this is just something, it's kind of funny because I've switched role a little bit, Matt, right? Like I'm not the one that's just starting out, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of other folks that are starting out something new. And the number one piece of advice that I give to all of them is you can't do all the work. So you need to get somebody right away. Your job is to get the work and to establish the relationship and to guide the work and to make sure that it's getting done really well. So once it's beyond just a one person shop, in either vision, necessity, or demands from the outside, right? It's almost immediately you got to get that number two person. And if you look back at like all the most successful companies, I'm a voracious reader and collector of information, right? So we got really hooked on a system called EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. So that's what we based a lot of our structure on. And they use a lot of great examples of most companies that you recognize that are really blazing the trail is a combination of two people, right? It's someone that's kind of a doer and kind of a seller, right? And you think of like Steve Jobs and Wozniak, right? Is that his partner? Yeah, and one
integrator, the
Yeah,
visionary, and
the
the
visionary and
and
integrator.
the
Yeah, someone
integrator,
that's holding
yeah.
the business together and making it happen, and someone that's a visionary saying what's next. And
Right.
every big company that's out there, whether it was Ford or McDonald's or Apple or Microsoft, all these folks had that primary dual relationship. That's the foundation of their success, because you can't do it all the time.
Who was your first integrator?
Our first integrator, let's see. I'll just go with our first successful integrator, which is
There you go.
Cool.
yeah. So we had to experiment a little bit, and we debated heavily of whether we look internally or externally. And when it all started clicking, you guys know Andrea Cellini, right? So Andrea really pulled it together. She is very results oriented and super process driven, and I'm very much about, oh, wait a minute, let's go that way. And she's like, cool, we're gonna go that way, but we got to do this and this because that's what we said we are gonna do. And it's like, yes, thank
So
you.
it's balance. It gives, it brings balance to the equation.
Absolutely a balance.
And how long has she been with you?
Andrea has been here for 9 years, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 10. Oh gosh, maybe 10. Yeah.
Of your 13, 10, and did she start in the position she's in now?
Oh, not at all. Nope. Andrea was admin support, right? It's like in an architecture business, just like almost any business, you got a lot of information coming in, you got a lot of information going out, and the key to success is to track it.
Yeah.
And she was really, really good at tracking it and making sure that things were followed up. Always a pleasant hello when someone walked through the door or called on the phone, and it's remarkably powerful just being pleasant and competent at like how that can affect your whole persona. And she had always done that, and then we're like, oh well, let's do more. Okay, then she started doing all the proposals, and okay, now there's more, and now there's more. So
she was able to grow with you, and I say with you, with Walker Architects, in her role. And so she had capacity.
Blossomed into a critical component.
No, and a lot of and she's smart, and she's never satisfied with now, right? She's always like, okay, I see where you're going, and this is how I can contribute to get you there. Okay, well, consider this, and this. Got it. We're going to go that way. Okay, now I'm going to hold you to it, and I'm going to make sure that it's successful to follow through. So,
yeah. So you're number two.
Yeah, essentially, from the business structure. Now,
is her name number two?
No, I don't think she would like that.
Sorry, I'm quoting Austin Powers right now.
Yeah. Yeah, baby.
Who does number two work for?
Hopefully our audience knows that reference without having to have it explained to them.
Well, now they're gonna go Google it. Yeah. But just from functioning as a company, that was really important. But for us to grow as a company, the most important thing that we did was I brought in partners that had different skill sets than I had, right? Because it became evident after like maybe 5 years that the growth of the company was limited by what I could personally do. and my personal talents, right? And I'm good at some stuff, but I'm not good at everything. So adding folks like Julie Mitchell, when she walked in the office kind of completely unsolicited. She'd been traveling the world and decided to make Gainesville her home, and she's an interior designer, right? And at the times, like I did a little bit of interiors, but I was like, oh gosh, I can't support an interior designer. And then talked with her, looked at her portfolio, and was like, I may not have enough work for interior design per se, but I know that you've got to be a part of this. and
How big a leap of faith was that?
that was big, yeah, because it's not something I had budgeted for. It wasn't something that I expected to do. But Matt, I think you could probably look at the level of our design, and when Julie got added in, it went from here to here, right? And you could really see that. And same thing when Tim started, Tim Williams, and he came in. It's like, okay, you guys are doing stuff, but we can do it better. We can do it better, and we can do it more focused, and we can be completely hooked on a process that gets repeatable results. And I can do that, and I want to help you do that. So kind of all that process component and really documenting all that for all future employees was incredibly valuable, you know. So bringing Tim on as a partner was another like big growth moment. And then Gaurav Lohia, who came to us with international experience. You know, he had worked in the Middle East, he worked for AECOM, thousands and thousands of employees, and working for kings and sheiks in the Middle East with unlimited funds, billions of dollars of projects. And
Wow.
yeah, I'll work for this little old firm in Gainesville because his wife got a job at UF, and he was like, I need something to do too. And I, of course, want to live with my wife, so I will move to Gainesville. And another one that had a business filter that was so much more mature than mine, frankly, and a much wider view of how to be successful as a business. So that was another huge jump. So now it's the four of us kind of orbiting around, and Andrea keeping us all in line, which makes a leadership team of 5 people. So we don't have like little factions and things like that. It's a good balance. And when we get stuck, Andrea pushes us over the line and keeps us focused and targeted. So when we rely on that EOS system, that was like another layer of maturity of the office that kind of started unlocking a lot of potential, and has been super fun and scary.
Yeah. That's
Now-
awesome,
I mean,
though, that the pieces come together like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's been exciting to watch. And that's actually like, I love design, and I love seeing projects through, and I love seeing the satisfaction of our user groups move into a new facility. But the office is now a project, and that's where I like solving that puzzle of the office and how to make it better and better and better and better. And so
Working on the company instead of for the company.
Oh, completely, yeah. You know, that was a big shift, Carson. And when I joined our local Vistage group, right, which is, you know, basically CEO level folks of businesses that are, you know, 2 million on up. And kind of a peer group of sitting down and saying, okay, what are you focused on? And paying attention to business, and okay, here's a problem. Let's talk about that. Let's come up with a solution together, and let's use the group think of everyone's experience to kind of help each other solve problems and really focus on business growth and structure, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's been this evolution of constantly leveling up as I've gone through this.
Yeah, I've heard it said or described before that basically you, as the owner or, you know, CEO level, however you want to describe it, but you should only be doing tasks. You should strive to only be doing tasks that only you can do. So that's the highest level, right? So if it's something that someone else can do, then it should be delegated, and that would maximize time and money spent on time. Is that kind of your guys' approach with the 5 of you?
It is, comma. My job is mostly teaching everybody else how to look at problems through the lens that I use, which is a little more unique in the office, the way that I problem solve. So just talking about it out loud, talking about hey, I've run into this before, and this is how I solved it, and this is why, and it always boils down to just speaking straight, lay it on the table, and get opinions from folks that do it best, right? Like tradesmen or superintendents, or maybe another owner that's built this project 28 times, right? Like they're gonna go, I see where you're going, champ, but you really need to do it like this. And going, oh, okay, now I get it. And then you start to collect those things. But it's structuring how to have those conversations, and teaching it to everybody that comes through the office is like my number one thing. Is I want everybody to be better than me. I mean, frankly.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay, but I want folks.
So is that part of your brand as far as solving problems through a certain lens?
Oh, totally. Yeah. That's kind of the whole MO. It's shocking how rare it is. We partner a lot with folks across the industry of every scale firm, and to find people that are truly focused on actually solving a problem. And I don't want to say like bravery. I that's the wrong word. I want to say um something about like a level of confidence to be able to voice what's being unsaid, right? And how powerful that can actually be, because everybody has that little story that's in their head when they walk into any meeting and any conversation, and they're listening to maybe 3 words of what's actually being said, and the rest is the story that they're building in their head, and they're going to pick a word or two that kind of reinforces that story. And the number one thing that we do is shine a flashlight on that story and say, how much of that is actually true? Like I can point to this, and there it is, and that's actually there. Then I have to get from here to here.
Yeah.
So
But
how
all this
many
other
different ways
fluff,
do I have to get there? Yeah, the
we
rest
got
is
to
just
get rid of this
noise.
stuff.
Yeah,
Just
it's
noise.
static. So it goes to solve that, right? Like just being willing. I think that's the right word. I'm willing to actually say something when things go unsaid. Like any conversation, I can think of like 3 meetings in the last 2 weeks where somebody would ask a question like, hey, who was going to be taking care of this? And it was a meeting of, I don't know, 15 people on a Zoom or in person, and nobody would respond. And it was just silence. And then they'd go on to the next topic.
Mm.
And simply saying, wait a minute, person X just asked a question. Person X, can you please clarify who that question was to?
Right.
Okay, now to the person that you're being asked, do you have an answer? It's okay if you don't. Let's find out how to get that answer.
Right.
When are we going to get it by? Oh, well, that was really helpful. And like boiling it down to the core of problem solving is to simply name it 9 times out of 10. Just identifying the problem is most of the way to solving it.
So just a willingness to dig a little deeper, dig deeper.
Yeah,
than the next
yeah,
guy.
and say it, and
Yeah.
just don't let things just kind of move on because they're uncomfortable or unfamiliar or unknown or anything. It's just, hey, wait a minute, that wasn't as clear as it could be because I'm not clear. And if I'm not clear, I bet somebody else isn't clear. So I'm just gonna like spit this out now. I may be the only one that's totally fuzzy, but that's rarely the case. You'll often hear someone kind of, oh yeah, I was thinking the same thing, so kind of putting that all out on the table.
Really having the courage
Yeah,
to,
yeah, that's kind of like the thing that popped in my head when you guys asked me to do this, like grit. What is grit? Is it just a willingness to be clear and talk direct? And for us, I think that is, right? Like, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
so
comfortable hearing it, but
that's
it's like,
that's when I doing my research and kind of defining grit for myself and repurposing the psychology definition and the academia of it. And I broke it down into 4 virtues of grit, and valor is the first one. So I
mhm.
mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's valor is the courage component. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's exactly right.
And
A
those are a
Joe
couple
word would be gumption.
Yeah,
yeah.
gumption. That's right. Exactly.
That's a good one. Actually, this is like a little parallel, but it kind of applicable of what we do in our office is our little fundamentals. Matt, you've seen these, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So
He used to sit on my desk.
yeah. So these are just through Vistage, we were introduced to a consultant that kind of took our values and said, okay, a lot of companies have values, but when like one of our values is quality. Well, of course, yeah, quality. What does quality mean to person X or person Y or person Z? You're going to get 3 different answers. And if you ask 300 people, you're going to get 300 different answers, even if you have a definition written, right? In their head, there's something that quality means. So changing it, it's less about courage and more about simplicity and directness. And that's what these little fundamentals do. And like one of my favorite ones is always have something to point to. Like when you have a conversation and, well, we kind of agreed and we said in this one meeting and you kind of said that, didn't you? Sort of. Don't you remember it like that? Like that's how a lot of meetings end up. And that's how a lot of conversations end up. And you have to remember that from a year ago, and everybody's going to have a slightly different memory, or you simply write it down. Say, on January 23rd at 2:30, these people were here. This was the question, and this is what we decided. And there it is. Yeah, I don't have to argue about it. It's like, there it is.
Right. It's
And
factual.
yeah, and that courage and valor component gets so much easier when you just dumb it down to a simple behavior.
Mhm.
And so when we kind of were introduced to this way of thinking and turning values into actionable behaviors that are just fundamental to everything that we do in the office, everything kind of got easier. And you didn't have to worry about all that angst and everything. You could just rely on, oh, just speak straight. Or, oh, wait a minute, I need to remember I'm having a conversation. I need to actually take in information. So let me clear my head a minute. Could you say that again? I think I got it, but I started wandering. So let me bring it back. And oh, now I understand. And what you said was, and just doing things like that for simple clarity. It made it all easier, and you didn't have to feel that angst of like, I have to be brave to be able to say this. So anyway, sorry for the segue, but that was kind of
No, that's
Yeah,
great.
but I
That's
think it
awesome.
speaks volumes to where you are now, and it's been
Mhm.
great to kind of listen to your progression through time and the growth and the maturity. I want to take us back to where if I'm, and you'll chuckle when I ask this because I was just there a year ago, but I want to go back in time when you say, okay, I'm still working for a company. For that person out there listening to this that says, yeah, I've been working for this company for X years. I'm feeling mature in what I do. How do you get that confidence, to take the step out of corporate world, steady paycheck, and move forward? Like, what would you advise them to say, go for it or not?
Yeah. That one's actually kind of easy for me, and I'm a consumer of information, and popular or unpopular, I learned a lot from listening to Dr. Laura, actually. And
Awesome.
one thing that she said that just it totally resonated, and I even chuckle every time I think about it. And it's such a simple thing, like between now and dead, what do you want to be doing? Right. And you're like, whoa. If that isn't something that will help you filter your decisions on your actions, then nothing will. Like, if you're just content, kind of plowing through, and gosh, the situation I'm in, and it's really irritating, and you got a couple choices, right? Do I keep trudging along, and come in, and I know it's going to be like that tomorrow because it was like that yesterday. I know it's going to be like that next year because that's how it was last year.
Right, right.
The best predictor of the future is the events of the past, right? So people can be molded a little bit in behavior, but they don't really change, right? So it's a decision at that point. And am I okay with this? Do I get enough rewards out of whatever it is that I'm doing? Or do I want something different and better? And if the answer is I want something different and better, there's nobody that can make it happen other than you. Like waiting for someone to say, hey, here's this great opportunity, you need to come do this with me. That may happen sometimes, but if you put it out in the universe, it says, you know what? I think I'm going to change what I'm doing, and I'm going to take a minute and reflect on what are my strongest skills, and I'm going to lean into those. And sometimes that's marketable as an independent business venture. Sometimes it's something you can join up with another company and say, you know what, the skills that I bring to the table can make your company better, and I want to be a part of that. So let's talk, right? It's all driven from self, and that inner reflection, and taking active thinking on making yourself better, and judging your own behaviors and your own skill sets and kind of your own action when you get ruffled by something. It's like, oh, okay, all these are choices. I'm in control of it. I want to make these choices better for me and better for the people around me. So I'm going to do something different, right? So you got to lean on yourself and trust yourself a little bit.
Right. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
So you kind of make that step out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're now then in this kind of, again, you've had that self-reflection. It's kind of looking in the mirror, the belief in the mirror, you know, back and forth with that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You're on your own now. You know, what would you tell people they need most as a kind of a virtue to make it through that first year? What, you know, what do they really have to hone in on or be expected for? Again, not the physical side, not the, you know, the nuts and bolts, you know, what are the virtues that they need for that first year, or what virtue?
I would say the biggest thing you need is a trusted relationship with someone who can tell it to you real, right? And not just say, oh my God, you're the best, when maybe you're not the best at X, Y, or Z. Or, you know, you're going to make it if you just persevere, and maybe you won't if you haven't done your homework and done the right things. You need someone who's going to be able to reflect what they see in you in a really honest way, and you need to be willing to hear it.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, like, wow, I never considered it like that. And like, okay, and be willing to take that information and act on it. And sometimes it's going to be, you know, I hear your feedback and I totally understand what you're saying and where you're coming from. I don't think you've got the whole picture yet, so I'm going to keep going down this path. Or, whoa, I hadn't considered that. And let me pause for a minute and really question the path that I am on, and is a course correction required? And they always are. It's like day one to day done is never a straight line. So it's a little bit of kind of weaving your way through it, and you collect data as you move along, and you got to be willing to hear that data, and you got to have a trusted partner that's going to tell you.
So you get through the first year, 2 years, you now have a couple employees, but you're not quite comfortable yet, right? You're still going, can I make payroll? What do they need at that point?
That kind of never goes away. But that's a motivator.
What is that? What do you got to keep with you then?
What are you gonna, like, that feeling, or that?
Not necessarily the feeling, but if I've got to rely back to a virtue,
Mm-hmm.
what do I need personally to get through that, to make it through that, or to continue?
You got to have belief that it's going to work out, right?
Belief in yourself.
It totally. Because
and the others, I guess, around you, because you've graduated now to kind of a builder of people versus.
Yeah, and the folks around you, and you got to rely on the things, you know. I've put into motion a way of thinking and a way of doing business and a way of working with our clients that's going to pay off if we do it. So it's coming back on, what do I know to be true? Do that. Have I missed something? Is there data that's missing? And you know what? It may not work out how I want it, but it's going to work out. And you just keep relying on that, and it will. And there's failures that happen daily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of all different scales. It might be, my pencil broke, or it may be that we just lost the biggest job that we would have ever had, and I was really needing that to make sure that the next year was going to be okay. And all of those things happen, and they're gonna happen, and you can't hang on to that. You just gotta say, okay, what did I learn from that? Now I'm gonna apply it to the next one and move on.
That resilience to keep going, to not
Yeah.
get bogged down in the despair per se.
Yeah, and it's not even self-confidence or self-belief. It's that trust what you put into place, and trust the folks around you, and put yourself on the right path, and stick to it.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So we're coming up on an hour already. Time flies when you're having fun.
Right.
But I noticed a common theme, I think, and I wanted to just touch on it real quick before we run out of time. I think so I heard you say that, and correct me if I get out of line anywhere here, but I heard you say that before you went out on your own, right, you hired a professional coach. And then you just spoke about a trusted partner to give you a reality check and tell you like it is, right? And then as you've developed, you're on your fourth iteration of going back through the company and getting help to define really your inner culture and your outer client experience. Do you have a consultant? I'm assuming those 4 iterations, that's with a consultant, okay, or a coach or a mentor type of relationship. And now, as you've graduated, you are predominantly focused on coaching and mentoring and teaching your own people, right? Okay, so I say all of that to say, for that person that Matt's talking about, that's fresh, got a little experience, hungry for more, how critical was that coach? Is that your trusted partner that you're referring to that was giving you the reality checks that you needed? And how important has that factor been into your successes or setbacks thus far?
Critical. I chose a path where I pay an hourly rate for someone with a trusted opinion. And a lot of people have a spouse or a partner that they can trust implicitly. Some of it might be a best friend, a business colleague.
Do dogs work?
No.
Oh.
Dogs are yes man.
Feedback loop there.
Yeah, dogs help for other stuff. Like, I'm feeling down, I just need to pet the dog. Go for it. But having that strong mirror that's willing to challenge your thought process is
not the mirror on the wall, but reality mirror.
Yeah, like someone that will give you legitimate feedback. And I hear what you said. I see where you're going. It looks like you had 2 choices here and you chose this one. What if you'd have chosen that one?
Yeah.
And simply living life through questioning and things like that. And building a foundation of, okay, these are the things that I know to be true, and these are the things that I'm fuzzy about. Let's go gather more data to reinforce a path or challenge an idea, right? And sometimes, given all of that, it's still just what you feel in your gut. Right? All the facts say I should be doing this, but I just want to do that. And sometimes you can make that work just by sheer force and willpower, right?
Right.
And that's okay too. Like, I do that all the time.
That's the 4th virtue is vigor.
Yeah. I'm gonna get it. Yeah.
I will make it work.
Yes.
We've all seen the 2-year-old do that, right?
Yeah. How often does that work out? Every now and then they get a lollipop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good time.
Okay. Yeah.
So
well,
hopefully that was helpful and I didn't ramble too much.
no, I think it was great. I think there's a lot of people that teeter totter on that decision, maybe for a long time, maybe forever, and
Mhm.
then look back and wonder, what if I would have done that? And maybe they do have some regrets. So that's my hope for this, is I hope that, we encourage the right people that can really comprehend what we're saying to take that leap, and do the best they can for themselves and
For
society. And
sure, yeah.
And,
And
yeah.
yeah, that's not always about leaving the job you're in.
yeah,
Sometimes it's about leaning into the job that you're in.
Right,
right.
right. And going for the promotion or that
Yeah.
next,
And
the next position
and
or
the grass is greener where
opportunity.
you water it.
Mhm.
Yeah, right, right. Not ignoring an opportunity that might be there, but it wasn't
Yeah.
on your path.
Right, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I hadn't considered that, but
Yeah.
I'm really good at this.
Or
and I'm
like
Yeah.
Andrea is a perfect example, blossoming into a whole new position that didn't even exist before.
Yeah.
You just kept on walking in opportunity's door.
and
Yeah, she's
becoming
like,
critical.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Becoming so irreplaceable that
Mhm.
now she's a pivotal part. And
Oh yeah,
how many people are out there that could do that in their current role and just choose not to?
for sure. Yeah.
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 So that's the
Lots to be
goal.
learned from that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal, and you definitely helped. I think that was great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Joe. This was really good stuff. And we've known each other for a long time, and it's great to sit down and kind of talk like this a little more intimately about kind of your story, your journey, and I really appreciate, Carson does too. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity. And I love watching you guys develop in your careers too, right? And just watching all that happen and talking about, hey, this was a roadblock and this is a way around it. And oh, I like what you did over here. Kind of learn from each other. Your peer group is super strong. So
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I never knew about your acoustical or acoustician history. And when we worked together, I never thought I would own a concrete company or start a podcast. So, but yet here we are.
There you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing constant is change, but if you're not getting after it, then those opportunities might just blow right by. So
For sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
awesome. All right.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All
Probably
right.
tomorrow. All right.
See
See you
ya.
later.